Hey everyone, Stacks here, and today I'm checking out House of X number 4, and unless Jonathan Hickman finds a way to top himself during this series, this will go down as the best book of 2019, hands down. This book is full of emotion, it's full of great character moments, and it has stakes, and man, I am pumped up about it. Jonathan Hickman is nailing it. Pepe Larraz on the art is incredible. The colorist, Marte Garcia, is absolutely, it's beautiful, beautiful art. Oh my gosh, let's get into this though. I do want to ask that if you frequent the channel and you haven't yet, hey, consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm bearing down on 1,000, and that's a big deal for YouTubers, guys. I sincerely appreciate it. The book starts with a very ominous quote from Professor X, simply, "No more." And when you get into this book, you'll understand why. After that quote, you get a white page saying, look at what they've done. And it's a detailed list of all the atrocities that have been committed, all the genocidal attempts made at mutants and mutant kind. And it talks about all the major events, all the way down to, Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, saying no more mutants, and then they call her the Pretender. Then Bolivar Trask, as in the Sentinels, taking out Genosha and killing over 16 million mutants. But the big takeaway is at the end of the day, there's only 198 mutants left. And that just continues to add to the stakes of what is going on with Professor X and these mutants. From there, we jump back to Krakoa, where Professor X has summoned Storm, the Cuckoos, he's got Hank McCoy, and they're all working basically the communications aspect of this mission to the sun. And what Professor X manages to do here is he makes a system between these mutants that basically project the images of Jean Grey, who he's communicating with in the other shuttle, and communicate with her during this mission. It's a really cool concept, and the art here by Pepe Larraz, the way he lays it out, and makes it it's really cool looking. And that's when we get our first post-blast update from the Xmen that are attacking the Orchis base. Through this psychic link in their conversation, we find out that Archangel and Husk are already dead, and Nightcrawler has suffered some internal injuries. Wolverine didn't make it unscathed either, but his healing factor is kicking in and keeping him from falling out of the fight. And with all this going on, Jean Grey makes the comment, "We underestimated these people's resolve and it cost us." And Magneto turns around and asks, "Can you complete the mission?" Jean Grey's just replying, "I don't know." But Cyclops chimes in and says, "Yes, we can finish it. We have to, or this is all for nothing." And with that sentiment, they carry on. They soldier on. Cyclops turns, asks Nightcrawler, "Can you still get in there?" And Nightcrawler just replies, "Don't worry about me. I'm fine." And it's a good thing too, because he's their entry vehicle to the base. And the plan is simple. There are 4 collars that hold the mother mold in place. They've already got the plan. They know who's going where, and they violently executed on the objective. Wolverine heads to probably the most secured area and just rips through everyone. Nightcrawler and Cyclops break off towards 2 of the other collars, while Mystique goes for the 4th. And while the emotions are high on the side of the mutants, it's just as high with the humans. Reeling from her husband's death, Dr. McGregor is just overcome with grief and emotion. It's not until the Omega Sentinel reminds her that if you don't get up and defend this base, your husband died for nothing. And when she looks up, you can see in that moment where grief becomes anger and anger becomes hatred, and she takes control of the security elements on the ship, and she starts directing traffic. Now, part of directing that traffic is they're about to board the Shi'ar ship that the X-Men arrived in, which still contains Monet St. Croix and Jean Grey, who have stayed back to maintain that communications link to Professor X. And so while Dr. Gregson is focusing her attention on boarding this ship, suddenly there's a massive crokung, crokung. And what that sound is Nightcrawler and Wolverine successfully disengaging their collars and completing their portion of the mission. And with that, the stakes just drastically increase for the humans. And it starts to dawn on that this impossible mission that the X-Men are undertaking may be successful. Back on the X-Men ship, a whole new set of problems has presented itself because the ship is now being boarded by Orchis troops. Monet grabs Jean Grey and throws her in an escape pod. And Jean Grey looks back and says, "You're not coming?" And Monet takes and just walks towards the breach and says, "You have to keep the teams connected to Krakoa." And Jean Grey, in this moment of doubt, says, "Look, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do it over this distance without us working in tandem. You have to come with me." And Monet shuts the door and just tells her, "I don't know what to say, Marvel Girl. try harder, and then ejects her. And after she turns around, she faces these troops, and she transforms into her penance mode, and she absolutely starts mauling them. Back out at the collars, Cyclops finally finishes clearing the security forces around collar number 3 and disengages it, and then calls to Mystique. And Mystique is on target. You kind of get worried here that something's not right. Something in the picture causes you to pause for a second. And she can sense something like she's just walking straight into a trap. And she looks behind her and she sees Dr. McGregor standing right beside an emergency airlock button. And she sprints as fast as she can, but Dr. McGregor hits the button and ejects her out into the void of space. And like that, the mission just changed significantly. Because Dr. McGregor makes the call to leave the airlock open so that there's no way really for the X-Men to get out there to get to that release for the collar. And while leaving the airlock open surely creates a huge obstacle for the X-Men, she also is beginning to let her grief and anger outweigh her logic and sense. That being said, what she decides to do is try to bring the Mother Mold online. Now, calling back to House of X number 3, it was basically told us that if they brought the Mother Mold on early before it crossed a certain point, it would be mad. It would be an insane robot that would basically kill everything. By initiating the boot up process for the Mother Mold, what Dr. Gregson basically just did is installed a shot clock on the X-Men's mission. And what happens next is one of the most incredible sequences I have seen in comic books in a long time. Jean Grey gives her spot report and basically says it's coming online, we don't know what to do. And then Professor X, in calm and collectively, just says do whatever it takes. And Jean tells Scott, did you hear that? And Scott, he already knows what's going to happen. He knows what has to happen. He looks over and sees Wolverine and Nightcrawler and hears Wolverine in his head say, we can get there, ain't any other way, Slim. And Scott looks down as he gives the order. Go. And as the clock ticks down, Nightcrawler looks over at Logan and says, are you ready? And Logan stops and says, so I gotta ask, you still think there's something waiting for us on the other side? And Nightcrawler looks at him and says, worried about your soul, Logan? Just wondering what someone like me should expect. And Nightcrawler reaches out and puts his arm on him and says, when you wake from your earthly slumber, my friend, look for me. I'll be there waiting for you, radiant with open arms. And with that, two brothers in arms jump into a mission that they know they're not coming back from. And they willingly lay down their lives so others may live. And as soon as they hit the outside, Nightcrawler is immediately vaporized in the heat of the sun. And Wolverine bursting into flames with everything he has, with every last breath, just clawing and scraping at the collar of the Mother Mold as it comes online and is obviously insane. Wolverine takes his last swing and shears the collar away from the Mother Mold. And then as it descends into the sun, you can see Logan end up on the very face of it, looking like he's still swinging all the way down. And Cyclops, as he looks on, only thing he can say is, bravest man I know. From there, Cyclops moves on to the next problem. He's trying to figure out how to save Jean, because she's currently floating out in space in an escape pod, no food, no water, and he's trying to figure out how to get to her. And as he sprints to her location, suddenly he is blasted from behind. And as he looks up, the Omega Sentinel is standing over him, telling him that she just blasted him with nanites. And at this time, they are coalescing at the base of his neck, and he's going to be unable to use his mutant powers. As Scott lays there in pain, he says, look, it doesn't matter. We won. Capture me means nothing. And at that point, Dr. Gregson steps out from behind the Omega Sentinel and says, my husband's dead. I'm not taking prisoners today. And the only thing Cyclops can say to Jean telepathically is, I'm sorry, Jean, I'm not going to make it. And Jean just screams no as Cyclops is shot, and you see his shattered visor in this really heartbreaking image as she can feel that psychic break link and him no longer be there. As that happens, the Sentinel reinforcements arrive. They grab Jean's escape pod and they rip it open, killing her. Meaning that the whole team, all 8 X-Men that went on this mission, are now dead. Back on Krakoa, Storm drops to the ground. Charles Xavier kneels down, holding himself up as a tear rolls down his cheek. And he simply says, they've murdered so many as the world has grown used to it. This is just how things are. People, mutants, no more. And then you get this white splash page with just 2 words on it, no more. followed by a 2-page spread of all the atrocities kind of in news clipping forms, and it's really, really intense. I stand by my initial comment that this is absolutely the best book of 2019, hands down. The story, the art, it had me every single page just what's going to happen next. I was seriously, I wasn't biting my nails, but if I bit my nails, I'd seriously be biting my nails because it was so intense as I was reading it. The story was absolutely fabulous. The characterization, the characters, all of them were nailed. All of them were heroes being heroes the way that we think of them being heroes. Wolverine was going to do what needed to be done when the time came. Nightcrawler stayed true to his faith throughout the whole thing. And to see him go out like that in that last conversation with Wolverine was beautifully done. Cyclops being the guy who always wants to be the guy to take the shot, but then at the last minute having to give the order for somebody else to do it. You know that would have weighed on him. Even at that point, even after that, he was immediately on to the next mission to go try to save Jean. And the art, man, the art on a couple of those panels, especially with Scott when he gets killed. Oh my goodness. So where are we going forward? We know that Mr. Sinister is going to be involved going forward. We just don't know where at this point. We're tracking that this is Moira's 10th life. We finished the 9th life with Apocalypse, and this was the 10th life. And we're tracking back from when Destiny spoke to her that she may have 11 lives. On top of that, we haven't seen Moira in the 10th life yet. So there are still a whole lot of questions regarding that. And I gotta tell you that these deaths in this book, they felt meaningful. It felt like they were committed and they gave their life for a cause. But like you, I've peeked forward and I've seen the covers for the upcoming X-Men line, and I know that most of these characters are on those covers. So I truly have to believe that this 10th timeline is not going to end the way that the mutants want it to, or in a satisfactory way, that Moira's not going to go back and do the 11th life and try to fix it there. I'm completely off in speculation mode though, and I'd love to have some of my friends maybe from the Comic Aficionados come on and do a live stream maybe later this week to kind of discuss all these theories. Anyways, bottom line, Jonathan Hickman, R.B. Silva, they're killing it. Absolutely deserves all the praise that this book is getting at this point. I want to say thank you to all my subscribers out there, and if you haven't, hey, take the time, hit that subscribe button, and double check it. If you meant to subscribe to the channel, and double check it to make sure you're still subscribed, because for some reason I had a bunch of people drop off recently. A couple other YouTubers mentioned that they had the same thing happen, so just check it out if you don't mind. But that's all I got, guys. Want to hear your comments below. Thanks for watching. Real Comic Stacks out.